Whether you're a Class 5 rafter or just looking for a couple of laughs, these two have you covered. Welcome to Aaron and Zach's Better Than Mediocre Rafting Show.
What's up, gentlemen?
Good morning, good afternoon.
Happy Tuesday. We are doing our Friday show on Tuesday because we got no questions for our Q&A Tuesday show.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe we're doing a bad job. I mean, not maybe. We're doing a bad job. We already know that.
We answered all the questions.
We answered them and people were like, those are terrible answers.
No, I think Zach, there's nothing left to answer. We've answered all the questions so well that they're just speechless. They're like, you covered everything. Amazingly.
We may have to cancel the Tuesday show going forward because there's no point of it anymore. So welcome everybody to the show. This is a show we generally do on Fridays, but I'm working Fridays, so we're moving it to Tuesday this week. And this is where we just talk about rafting, review videos, have fun. This is entertainment, not education. Aaron, if people want education, where do they go?
Our Tuesday show.
Okay.
Lake Tahoe Community College.
Lake Tahoe Community College.
Yeah. Oh, actually Lake Tahoe Community College. We got a couple of spots opened up on our course. So, and pretty exciting. Adam Walker's building us a couple of new creek frames for our course too. So we should be set for high water.
That's exactly what people want. They want creek frames in their guide schools.
Oh, you do at high water. Yeah.
Oh, because you're doing when's your guide school? When is the Lake Tahoe Community College guide school?
It is starting a week and a half, I think. We basically first week of April, so it's coming up quick. Yeah.
Aaron, where are you going to be?
South Fork? South Fork, yeah, mainly South Fork. We might try to go over the North Fork. We've done that in the past. We'll see.
But if I want to see you in person, I can come to Lotus and
come on down. Come on to Lotus. Yeah, come by.
I'm going to see Zach in person in April.
There you go. Yeah.
Just do a whole road trip.
Yeah.
Maybe I should come up on the Friday that Aaron's going to be in Lotus, and then the Friday that before the Northwest Rafting thing, and we can do like side by side.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah. On the show.
You guys can record something for a future show.
Unfortunately, we'll be on the water doing our course, so I won't be available. So
Aaron takes his job.
Stream.
Aaron takes his job pretty seriously, though. He's like, I'm not a YouTube sensation right now. I am a instructor. I'm going to focus on my instructing.
Yeah, definitely not a YouTube sensation. Zach, that's you. You have all the glory. So
no, this is us. Before I want to ask one question. You're doing a guide school in April. The snowpack in California is insane.
Yeah, this is like 1983 style.
Yeah. So what flows are you anticipating on the South Fork?
Well, luckily it's still early, so not too high because we're going to be pre-runoff.
Okay. But you have the frames, the creek frames, just in case it gets high?
Well, I think it's a good year for people learn to guide or pallet combos with the high water. Like it's a year to, like if you're wanting to work as a guide this year in California, on the South Fork, knowing how to run an oar pallet combo is an important skill. I'm sure there'll be companies running paddle boats out there, but
is somebody right now just mass producing creek frames? I would think like all California outfitters would want like 10 of them.
Yeah.
High water Tuolumne, high water Merced, high water American. You don't
I think
want.
We have enough. I think there are enough out there.
Yeah, those things last forever. But there's the high water Tuolumne season. Sounds like it might not be happening.
Agreed, but the flows on the South Fork are 6,000.
Oh, really?
Right now, like sort of. It got up to 15,000 a couple of days ago.
Oh.
Who knows what the weather's going to be like in a week and a half? But I don't think you're going to see low water or normal flows on your guide school.
And shouldn't you be checking those flows right now? Don't you think, like, as an instructor, head instructor of Lake Tahoe Community College, this shouldn't be a surprise to you?
Well, I'm not until we get a little closer. I mean,
I agree. I like to add a little tension to Aaron's life. Let's think about this though. Aaron, would you rather be teaching your guide school you're preparing these students for commercial life. Would you rather do that under high water conditions? Would you rather they learn under high water conditions or normal flow conditions?
I'm going to say this. If I were an outfitter and I want to have guides that are going to stick around, I'd way rather do it in high water because those guides stick around because it's so fun. I think as like an instructor in building skills, the technical learning to control your momentum is way more useful. And that's something we're going to have to figure out. And maybe we'll get like in the North Fork, we'll drop down and get lower and we can go over there or get more creative because I know Ben agrees with this as well because we've done so many North Fork's 4K right now, so we're definitely not going over there. But I agree. I like the technical better. Even technical class 2, where you just have to control back, forward, back. Really technical low waters out team for just learning to control your momentum. Or I feel like you can have no clue what you're doing and think you did a great job because you're a log floating down river. So yeah, is that what you're feeling too, Steve?
No, but I'm thinking that I would rather get in a boat with a guide who was really good and competent and experienced at high water when it was low water than I would to get in a boat with a guide who was really experienced and competent at low water when it was high water. Like, I think the high water skills are more critical than the lower water skills. Would you guys agree with that?
I'll agree with that, but I'll say I think that Lindsay's
Aaron,
probably
you're breaking up, and you're breaking up a lot, so we're kind of missing things. Just so you know, you hear that too, right, Steve? He's going to break it up.
Zach,
I feel like I am breaking up.
Would you rather have high water trained guides or low water trained guides or normal water trained guides?
I mean, if I'm at low water, I'd rather have low water trained guides. If I'm a high water, I'd rather have high water trained guides. But if I had to have one, it would be high water trained guides. Yeah, because high water is more dangerous. Like I want them to have those high water skill sets. If you're a low water trained guide, your boat spacing, boat order, flip rescue just won't be on point. Right. So I would rather have them trained to high water for sure if they're running high water. Like, you can't be a high water guide if you haven't trained to high water. Like, it's just
there you go. Yeah.
You can't be a low water guide if you train to high water.
Thank you. I agree with that. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
I'm going to say not totally. I think low water skills translate better to high water boating than high water skills translate to low water boating.
That's the exact opposite of what Zach and I just said.
I think we're on the same page. Not totally. I think you guys are right about the risk. I think you're right about it. I prefer to have a guide that's high water trained on a low water trip, but I think they're going to struggle a lot. But if someone's got low water technical skills, it's easier. It's way easier to take someone who's good technical boater and have them make the adjustments to boat high water. It takes minimal training.
Let me rephrase it. Low water is more difficult, I think.
Yep.
And so you get better as an individual boater at low water.
Yeah.
High water, though, requires a set of high water skills that aren't technical as much as like boat spacing, boat order, flotilla management, and managing flips and swimmers, which is like, you ever seen a swimmer and then boats peel out and they just miss them by a mile because their timing is off. They didn't represent the timing. But the more dangerous thing is high water. Yeah. So like I really respect low water boaters for their individual skills, but like it doesn't always translate well to high water. They need additional training.
Yeah. I think there's like individual skills versus team skills. I think that's the big difference we're discussing here too. The high water, it's about team skills and working as a team. Low water, it's about your individual technical skills. And I just like on the Tuolumne, when we have high water years, I've really never had problems training up crews for high water that can guide on the Tuolumne. I will say I have people who getting people to be able to run low water Tuolumne is a whole different can of worms, and finding people with the skills to do that, I almost feel like it's harder. Like if they can do the low water, the high water is not a problem, but going the other direction just seems I find more challenging.
If I'm going to do a high water middle for trip, Tuolumne trip, Like, I don't want a crew who's just on low water. That's
I don't.
And
I don't.
so, like, I think that's
Well,
what people
yeah.
are getting at. And same thing with the South Fork. Man, you guys know every year it's like guides who have seen drought years. They know 1,000 CFS. They have it memorized, and they go run Racehorse Bend at 8,000, thinking it's just like 1,000. And there's multiple flip swimmers everywhere. It's a disaster. There's not safety boats. There's not spacing. There's not like they think they just know the river, whether it's 1,000 or 8,000. Racehorse Bend is going to flip a lot of boats this year. Racehorse Bend, a lot of places.
Racehorse Bend is not going to flip a lot, Zach, but okay. Other places will. Not Racehorse Bend.
I only say that because I remember when I worked as a guide, the first year I got high, we had just like multiple flips on a trip at Racehorse Bend. I've been through this. So
really?
I'm like, yeah, there's a massive at 8,000, there's a wave nobody remembers. It just pops up and it flips a lot of boats.
So I think though, but the problem is that the high water, no matter what, you can't just pull a random crew together and run high water. You need to train together. You can pull a random crew together and run low water. High water, you need to work together and you need to train. And no matter what. And I think if it's a team of guys that have just done low water and they need to train together, a team of guys who haven't worked together and they need to train for high water, it's a little better if they've done some high water before, but I don't think the difference is minimal. Like I'd say you're going to need to do a training trip anyways. And if you do some good training, it's not that hard to get those technical boaters to be ready for high water, to understand what needs to be done. I'd say the big concern is being able to do a downstream ferry, because some of them can't do that well. And I'd say that's my biggest concern, is people being able to do a downstream ferry. But then that's the one skill, but it is a crucial one. But yeah, I'm very happy with taking a low water crew and getting prepared for high water. But I think you got to be on them. You know, you got to coach them. You got to coach them up and be just like, hey, this is what has to happen. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. We got to be tight. That's not tight enough. That's not tight enough. This is how it needs to be done. So, but I'll say I see certain companies at high water that don't run tight and don't do those things that well, that run pretty loose. So
I think you're lucky. I think you're fortunate to be able to train on high water. It doesn't happen very often. If you don't ever train on it, if you don't learn how to do it, you only learn it on the job. If you train it, the guides who learned in the last couple of years at lower water are going to go out this year without training. Like they're going to already be whatever, regular guides, working trips, experienced boaters going out at high water and having never seen it before. They're at a disadvantage, I think, to your high water guides who will be trained this year, who might have to go out at low water next year. Like I think that is just a much easier transition.
I agree.
From a high water guide to a low water guide than the other way around.
Yeah, I feel like those high water years when the water drops, you just see those guides start getting hammered when there's like, yeah, there's rocks now. You got
vice
to
versa.
Rocks.
Then just train, but also like the same thing. You said
the low water training is harder. I think.
That's you think to retrain a guide? You're saying to retrain a high water guide to do low water is harder than to retrain a low water guide to do high water.
Disagree completely.
Way hard.
I think they're equivalent. I mean, it's just retraining.
No, because the low water is you need a lot of time and experience to understand the momentum of the boat with those low rocks, those rock pivots and all that stuff. High water is like stay close, and it's like you already have the fine boat maneuvering. You don't need to worry about that. You just need to understand what's expected. I think that's the big difference in my mind, is like that going from low water, you've got the technical skills to maneuver the boat. You can put the boat where it needs to go, when it needs to go. You just understand what it needs, where you need to be. High water going to lower, you don't have the technical skills to put the boat where you need to be. You've got to learn that, and that takes a lot more time. So it's
Aaron,
I'd say I'd rather have a group of guides that have worked 4 years low water, who I have, and they come out and we train for 3 or 4 days at high water and then go work trips with them, than a group of guides I spent a week training this year for high water who've never guided before.
Well, yeah, of course. You got 4 years of experience. But let's look together. If someone asked you what are the biggest differences between a normal low water, let's call it, Tuolumne trip or South Fork American trip or Middle Fork of the Salmon trip, and a high water trip, what are the differences? What is in the river? Oh, it's more
pushy.
And it's, what's that?
It's more pushy, and it's more continuous. Yeah,
so faster and more powerful. Would you say that high water is faster and more powerful?
and more washed out in places. I think the lines are wider and clearer, but if you get off the line, you get in a lot more trouble. So the lines are easier in general, but if you make a mistake, the consequences are more severe. And that's why I think it's easier going from low water to high water, because the low water guys have got those fine skills to do that. The high water, if you just start on high water, you don't have those fine boat control skills.
Okay.
We're going to disagree on this.
I'm just saying
I'm in
that
between.
what you're saying is that it's going to be easier when it'll be easier for you because it's faster and more powerful, as opposed to it'll be easier for you because it's slower and less powerful. That just seems like
there's more you
natural way to go. Like, oh, let's slow things down and make them less powerful. It'll be easier for you. That's where I'm coming.
I would say that like the Tuolumne 2500. I think there's a point where these things change for sure. The Tuolumne 2500 is way easier than the Tuolumne 1000, right?
But there's more consequence.
Yeah, not much. It's way
There's
easier.
definitely more consequence. So let me I can say something. At low water, the consequence of a mistake is generally just getting stuck
or wrapped.
Yeah, but like it's generally just like they don't make the move, they get stuck.
Yeah,
and they
come
out.
And I agree completely.
At a high water, the consequence is a paddle boat flips and 6 people go ahead of the trip and people die. So like,
hold on, not people die, but yeah, I agree. Low water
records,
and that's why I like low water for guide schools also is because you can allow students to make a lot more mistakes. You can let the river give them feedback. You know, like, oh, I hit a rock, hit this, hit that. High water,
mistakes become actual problems on high water. That's what I'm worried about. Like if I was teaching at guide school 6,000, I have anxiety right now because you not only have to teach them, but they have to perform. Because if a boat flips and they can't recover, they don't have their boat spacing, things can get out of control really fast. Where like
here's the question for you. Here's the question: would you rather, if you're training for Tuolumne crew, would you rather have a group of guides who did a high water season on the South Fork or a low water season on the Tuolumne?
I want them to have both. I don't know. I don't have a preference either way. But
would you rather have them? I'm gonna say this. I would rather have a crew that had a low water season. This is something Ben and I have talked about a lot, you know, during the schools.
Doesn't mean it's right.
When the water's a certain level, they can catch an eddy anywhere. You don't have to catch an eddy at the top. You can catch an eddy anywhere. You just pull in, you're in the eddy. Catching eddies is
Aaron,
in general is not that hard.
When you talk to Ben, sometimes you say, hey, this is something I talk to Zach and Steve about a lot. Or is it just you just use that on us?
No, just use it on you guys because Ben agrees with me on this one. I got to pull something in. I got to pull on someone else with you. Ben and I will just have a conversation. Ben and I usually agree on all this stuff.
Got it. So
I'll be curious. We'll talk. We're going to be talking about this.
So like, I'm not like in my brain, if I'm teaching a guide school in the South Fork, I'm not teaching people to run the Tuolumne. Like that's a whole other. I need multiple skill sets.
No, but I'm going to say this, Zach. I'm going to say this. People who've guided multiple seasons on the South Fork usually do pretty well coming over the Tuolumne on paddle boats. Like that was pretty well.
I did that. Yeah. I did multiple seasons.
Yeah, I think that the South Fork is a really good training.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So,
and I think they learn
low water South Fork. Low water South Fork's a good training for running the Tuolumne.
But high water South Fork is good training for high water Tuolumne. I'm just here's what I'm gonna say. Hey, Aaron, we haven't had a high water in California for a long time. But if you look at seasons where it hasn't been high water for a while, and all of a sudden you have high water, there are a lot of accidents, and there will probably, unfortunately, be a lot of accidents this year because people aren't trained on high water skills, including outfitters. And outfitters haven't even learned high water skills.
Let's talk for a second. How many of the incidents are on commercial trips though? Most of them are private trips, and most of them are private trips. People go up on the South Fork yearly in June or July for their trip, and it's an annual trip, and they go up every year, and it's higher. And I feel like that's where a lot of the trouble is.
I think it's both. It's gonna be both. It's gonna be both. And like because you're Aaron Cavagnolo, you know how to run a high water trip. Let's say you normally run a South Fork trip with like you have 30 guests on a low water. How many boats is 30 guests?
5
boats, 5 paddle boats, 6 and then it's 8,000. Are you going to run 5 paddle boats of 6 at 8,000?
No.
You shouldn't. But I'm going to tell you, there will be people running 5 paddle boats.
Well, I think that's
let's find
there's a
some
skill
common
set.
ground.
Well, hold on. I just want me to finish this because I'm on another thing. So if you were to run 30 commercial passengers on the South Fork 8000, what does that configuration look like, boat wise?
I'd probably run 2 4 loads. That's 8. And you got 22 left. 3 4 loads and 2 6 loads.
Paddle boats or paddle assists?
Or paddle assists. Maybe the 2 paddle boats depending on the crew and what's going on in the guides, but definitely the 4 or paddle assist, 3 or paddle assists, and then probably a stern frame for the other ones. But depends. I might, if I had them.
You could do the 2 paddle boats.
You could do 2. Yeah, you can. I think it just depends on the people.
How many total boats do you have now? How many total boats do you need?
You gain
5.
Put 3. You had 5 before, and then 2. You have 6 boats.
6.
One more boat.
Yeah, you have to add one extra.
You're just adding one boat, but you're spreading people out, putting them in oar paddle assists who can provide some downstream containment. They'll be better on the river and provide some downstream containment. So you're adding a boat, and you need a bunch more stern frames, which Arda has a lot, but I don't think the whole South Fork community owns. There's not a strategic supply of creek frames out there. They don't have them.
There are creeks because high waters come every few years forever, Zach. They've been
a while. I don't know, but also
do you
not
sell
high water like this. Not high water like this. I'm not selling creek frames. This isn't a river hardware commercial.
No, Zach. No. I mean, are you selling your creek frames between seasons? No, you know the high water is going to come again. And you're holding on to them as the other.
You have a few more every time. You have a few more every time. You have a few more.
Okay,
let's let that be. People can decide.
Let me ask one more question. Would you put a safety cataract or safety kayak on the South Fork at 8,000?
I don't think that's the industry standard for commercial outfitters.
He's asking if I would do it, though. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it depends on my crew. Depends what's going on with my crew and the day and the weather. There's a lot of variables involved with that. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't know if it's necessary. It depends on my crew, I think. It depends on who I've got out there. Who's my lead boat.
If it's a bunch of people who've only done low water and never done high water, would you put it?
Well, no, I wouldn't put them out anyways. I would train. If they were Mike, I would take them out and I would train them. That's what I would do. I'd take them out and be like, okay, we're going to go out for a few days and train.
So I think if you're taking a crew that's only seen low water generally and you're moving to high water, you need more guides because you're putting more boats out there. You need more boats. You need more creek. You need more physical rafts too.
Yeah, you need more boat.
But that's more like.
But this is one thing that I will say is like, this is something that I've said before is you got to be careful about more boats isn't always safer. It's like if you're into sports, like tennis, like the top 5 guys play.
Eric, if you have 30 people, are you going to put them in 5 paddle boats?
Zach, hold on. Okay. If you've got your top 5, right, tennis players or whatever, all of a sudden your top guy goes down and everyone has to move up. That's brutal. Or the same thing, if you have to add a 6th, that 6th person is way weaker. So I think it's not just an automatic add an extra raft, automatic add an extra cataract. I think it depends on your team and your scene. And it's not an automatic like, oh yeah, add an extra one. Well, who are you bringing in as that 6th person? If you're bringing a Steve Welch, heck yeah, Steve can join us. You bet. We're bringing Steve out. Great.
I'm not adding more boats because I want more boats for safety. I'm adding more boats because I'm thinking if I have a 30-person commercial trip, how do I sit them? And to make this happen,
and that's exactly that's my point. Is in some cases I could see an argument for running 5, 6 loads with stern mounts.
But you can't do that with a South Fork 13-foot high side. Like the boats, like that's requires.
And I think, and that's a whole. And I agree. The 13-foot. That's one of the problems with running those little boats.
This is the problem with like so many years of low water. Everybody's geared up to run the South Fork at 1,200 or 900, whatever. They have the boat size. They have the gear. It's not a quick, easy transition to high water.
Hold on. It's easy. You know what you do? You just pull out all those old squareback pros bucket boats and rally because that's what we used to, I remember.
Where's the strategic supply of squarebacks?
They're sitting in warehouses
They
everywhere.
are not. They are not.
Yes. I bet
Let's
you,
just trust that outfitters or anybody going down the river at high water is going to make the proper judgment decisions. Here's the things I think we can agree on. Incidents at high water are far more consequential than incidents at low water.
Yes.
Right? And my initial point for you, Aaron, was if you were talking to a potential whitewater school student and they were like, oh, I'm not sure I should train at high water. I'd be better off training on a low water year. I think you can easily say, no, absolutely not. This is a once in a 5-year, 10-year opportunity to get skills that you're not going to be able to get easily at any other time.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah, total. Yeah.
I don't think
the
there's
high water years are
nothing-
special. The high water years are special for sure. Yeah.
And by September of this year, everybody that goes to Lake Tahoe or anybody that goes to any guides training this spring on any river in the West will have low water experience. But guides who went to whitewater school last year, by September, they never had high water experience.
Yeah.
They just never got it. Never got it. They're going to be getting it on the job this year. So I think that dealing with 6,000 CFS, yeah, it makes me nervous as a whitewater school instructor, but this is this will have good long-term benefits for those students. It's a good year to go to whitewater school.
Zach, how high was the water for your guide school? It was pretty high that year, wasn't it?
I think I medium. I don't know, 2,000 maybe. It wasn't
It
super
was
high.
higher than 2,000.
But
did they even have a way of tracking it back then?
Yeah, back when then. That's a good question.
How do you
K-flow.
still have the stick?
You
Is it the
K-flow.
stick that was stuck
You
in the
had to
shore?
call
That was-
it called
It was
K-flow,
actually the K-flow days when you called K-flow. I mean, I didn't start when Steve, you were the stick. But like there was
flow
a phone.
I remember the flow phone.
It was flow phone days.
916.
If you look back at
Yep.
the epic years of guides, the class of 83 river guides across the West, it was an epic crew of guides. Like you could go back and a lot of the famous Echo guides started in 83, like a big water year. And I think a lot of Grand Canyon guides, 83 was a famous year. I think the same thing, on the Tuolumne, 97, I think was that massive year. A lot of people who started guiding then had long careers. They just developed skill sets. They became really great guides. I think this will be one of those years. Guides who start this year
could be the next. Yeah.
I don't
It's
think
not
it's
just
about skills. I think it's about you got this fix and you want that fix again, so you stay around because you're like, oh yeah, that was
no,
so
for sure.
fun.
That's probably it.
That's
probably it.
Yeah, give it to me. Yeah, get that in my bloodstream again. Yeah,
That's probably it. But I think that I don't know, these high water years that follow many low water years make me nervous. It definitely make me nervous. A lot of good comments here.
Yeah,
Our friend Tyler.
Hey, Tyler Gordon.
Yep.
Hi, Tyler.
I've told the story before, Steve, but I don't know if you've heard it. I was on an Illinois trip with Aaron and Tyler for ARDA, and Tyler's rowing into Greenwall and pops an oar and goes to shove it back in and just throws the oar out the sleeve.
Done that.
In the entrance, he calmly pulls the spare on, puts it in, and rows the rest. It was awesome. Tyler and I were gear boating for Aaron. Aaron was the pretty face, and Tyler and I,
behind the scenes. Back in the day, back when I had that.
I've done that.
Face,
Yeah.
You know that scene. Okay.
Yeah, that scene.
Okay. I had one more question for you, Aaron, about this, and I think I forgot what it was.
But going back, yeah, I think Tyler said it well. Thanks, Tyler, for the support. Yeah.
He agrees with a lot of what you said. That doesn't mean he agrees with you. It means he agreed with
He's
a
being
lot
nice.
of what you said. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't call that support.
Yeah, he didn't say I agree a lot with what Zach and Steve said, though, did he?
Oh, he just
didn't
does.
say that.
Yeah. That's a given. I feel like it's whether people are in a high water or low water. It's you can retrain to the other. You can get better at the other.
I'm going to say
a
this.
little bit of work.
In my perfect world,
Yeah.
for training someone, I would start off with technical low water. For training people, I would start off on paddle boats, technical low water. If I had if I could do whatever I wanted with flows or whatever, I'd have 2 weeks. I would start off on technical low water, paddle boating. Then I move on to like mid-range flows for rowing. We're not have to worry about popping oars and stuff like that. And then with the rowing, I'd kind of go to more technical stuff after that, and then maybe go up high at the end. The last thing I would do is I think the high water, because it is the most dangerous. And also I think when you've developed all the other skills, you've got all these other skills that work well. Okay, now we go learn this specific set of high water boating skills. So
yeah, it's the thing is Mother Nature doesn't just give you what you want when you want it. Like you're going to be teaching the high water this year, and so like it's something. It is what it is. Like we're going to train. They're training high water this year. They don't get a choice. I think a lot of this is hypothetical how you learn. I've been teaching at low water for 2 weeks on these rowing classes. It's awesome because I just say, hey guys, go make mistakes because the consequences you're going to get stuck. Yep. But I know the water's going to come up in a week, and I'm anxious. I'm like, man, we're going to have a flip.
You can't say go make mistakes at high water.
Yeah, I'm like, let's just tighten it up. Yeah, like go try things out. Go like, nope, we're just going to tighten it up and like be on alert all the time. Versus like, yeah, the consequence of learning at low water is minor. You can wrap and you can flip, but like it's not. You're not worried about a swimmer going a mile, which is something that's always in the back of my head. Aaron, I have one more question for you.
I have a one before we go into that. How, if you're training a crew up for high water, would you like to see a flip happen during your training?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll humble them
because you don't really want to see flips because they can be dangerous, like I said. But I think high water training, I've never been upset when a flip happens when we're training a high water, like on the Tuolumne. Like I think Ram's Head's the classic spot. Someone when you're training is going to end up in the Ram's Head hole. But it's and like I remember we did multiple days, and one day like someone cleaned it no problem, and the next day got all casual and ended up in the hole. And I think it's great. Part of training is to have that happen, but you don't really. It's scary too because you don't want people to get hurt. But it's an interesting thing with training for high water is like you really kind of want flips to happen, but you don't. I don't have a good.
I think I want it to happen. I think
would you make it happen?
Yes, I would control it the first time, maybe the second time, and then not worry about it if it happening live. Like you can set that up. You can flip.
We did that in Zach's guide school. Is we've actually flipped 2 rafts.
You can run Ram's Horn and then flip a raft.
Ram's Head.
Yeah.
Ram's Head. Oh yeah, Ram's Horn. I've been away from California for a long time. You can run Ram's Head.
That is sad.
That is sad.
Did I call it Ram's Horn too?
No, you called it Ram's Head.
You can run Ram's Head, and at the bottom just flip the boat and say, "Guys, go deal with it." Like I think that's. How else are you going to learn? Like there's so much timing to that recovery that you
I think
will mess up your first few times.
And that's what we did back in that one is we just told the person who was the instructor in that boat is, hey, when you get here, flip your boat over.
Yeah.
And then everyone everyone else is just going to have to deal with this on the fly. Yeah. And I think that makes sense to me. That's a good way to do it is an in-betweener where you're not actually going and flipping into a big feature. That being said, I think it is a good experience for guides to have gone to a big feature, flipped, had to swim out of it, get back to the boat, get onto it, and flip it back over. That's when I've seen a guide who's done that. It's reassuring to me, and they've done it well. It's like, oh, like okay, you're ready to handle that part of the situation.
I mean, if you're gonna guide
is there you guys think of a way to do that? Yeah.
Aaron, you kind of broke up again, so we didn't hear all that. But I think I know what you're saying. I'm going to say if you're going to guide the Tuolumne 8000, you have to have seen a real flip happen and recovered it. You can't go to guide an 8000 trip and never have actually seen a real flip happen. Like that can't be your first time. Like a flip is likely to happen at 8000, and the consequences, I'd say 10% of trips at 8000 have a flip. Is that accurate?
How do you make sure that happens?
You don't get that job until you've worked somewhere where that's happened. Like I don't know. Really? To guide the Tuolumne 8000, you need a lot of experience. You can't just take a guide who spent 5 years on the T and say, "Hey, go guide 8000," without a lot of training. Like they've never seen a flip potentially.
No, I think you're being idealistic, which is good. I think in an ideal world, you would want that situation. But if you're the sixth guide on a 6-boat trip,
Yeah,
I think that's how you experience a flip. You're the one who flips, and then the next trip you've been someone who's experienced it, or you see it in front of you and you watch other people deal with it, and then you've been there. But I don't know that every single person should. Ideally, yes.
You're right. Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
But like a crew member on that, not the sixth guide, but like in the top 3 for sure, maybe 4, you need to have been around a real flip in your
yes,
past,
and ideally, yes, to this point, that if in an ideal world, before I run that 8,000 CFS Tuolumne trip with my 6 guides, the day before that trip, commercial trip, we run a training trip.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was always an ideal. We were able to do that a few times. And on that training trip, we flip a boat intentionally.
In current.
So that then everybody has dealt with a flipped boat going into the commercial trip or another trip the next day. So I think that flipping boats on training trips should just be a requirement of high water training trips like that. Even if everybody's already dealt with it, seems like that's just something that, okay.
So Steve,
refresh these skills.
Which type of flip are you talking about? The flip where like we were all just flipping a raft in the calm water and practice climbing on top and flipping back over, or we're talking about the one we discussed where you're like at the bottom of Ram's Head and one boat just decides to flip itself over, then everyone has to take care of cleaning it up.
I don't think
under not that any conditions. The bottom of Ram's Head, I would not do it at the bottom of Ram's Head, by the way, because there's too much. Too quick. But
I mean, I don't think under any conditions.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think under any conditions you should training trip, any conditions, you should try to flip out of control. Like let's run this hole because we want to flip and we want to do a recovery. Like you lose so much control in that situation. I think that's way too dangerous. But I would see that, okay, we all got to the bottom of Ram's Head safely under control. Let's put one boat out into the middle of the current, certain number of people in it, and flip that boat over and recover it before India. And practice doing that in that situation, but not like, let's try and flip a boat as we go through Ram's Head and then recover it before India. Like that to me seems like really, really reckless.
So you're saying don't run the hole at Ram's Head sideways on purpose to flip.
Exactly.
But maybe like in the eddy below, flip the boat and see how fast we can recover.
Yeah.
Like on purpose.
Don't
purposely cause a flip in a hole. Don't run Clavey hole on purpose because that's a good exercise at the bottom. Maybe like after Son of Clavey, let's do a couple like flip, reflip, get everybody on the boat.
Yeah. That's how I would approach it from a training standpoint.
As I've been teaching flipping a little bit past couple of weeks. Some people can get on the boat and some people can't. And I'm like, you need to know, that's a piece of information you need to know. Mm-hmm. Like if you can't get on the boat, like why are you even trying? Like you need to support somebody and just swim to shore. And so like, it's not like, I think I can get on the boat. You either can or you can't. And as a high water guide, you need to be able to get on the boat. Like, I'm not saying it's not okay, but like everybody needs to know how to get on the boats. Like we had a boat on this last trip, an NRS boat where the drain holes are really high on the boat. And so you can't even reach the drain holes. And so like, if he flipped, he couldn't even get back on because of that. So we ran a belly line for him. So hey, I can't get my fingers in the drain holes. Let's make sure our boats have belly lines and I can pull myself up on a belly line.
I think that's critical. Rig to be able to get back in your boat.
But you have to practice it because you have to know what you can't. Every individual has different abilities for getting back in the boats. So it's a practice thing to know what you can and can't do.
And I think it's a stigma that we should try and move away from. And I don't know where flipped angles fall into that. Like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have flipped angles. Like, but there are certain things like rigging a cam strap across the thwart so that you can pull yourself back in that are like, they have a stigma to them. Like, you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to get back in without assistance.
I don't think they have a stigma.
All right. I hope not.
I agree. There's certain people who do, Steve. And I always, like Steve, whenever I see someone set one up, I'm like, that's smart, man. I'll look it up, like, oh, that's a smart idea. Because you never know when you're going to be tired, and you're going to be tired. And yeah, you normally can pull yourself in, but you just took an epic swim. So I whenever anyone sets up any type of line on the bottom of the boat or on the top, I'm always like, oh, that's smart, man. Yeah, that's a good idea. And just saying it out loud so everyone else will be like, oh, that's a good idea. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then along with that, I think it is important is that like high water as a guide, a high water on the South Fork, and I don't think all outfitters will be doing this. Everyone should be able to self-rescue when their boat flips. Every guide out there should be able to climb up on top of it. They should be able to pass the IRF flip test. And if they can't, they should not be out there high water. And then that's the thing for me is that, and I think a lot of them can't do it just because they don't put lines on their boat to set themselves up for success. And I think that's part of the frustrating thing is that they're too embarrassed to do that. So then they're not set up so they can't self-rescue versus just put a line on the bottom of your boat. And then you can come and set yourself up so you can flip that boat back over. So, yeah.
Heidi left us a comment about her art school. Multiple swimmers on day one with more flips, injuries, and swimmers. Is that
the
good?
injuries part, she could have left that out.
Yeah, maybe. But she did say best training ever, and she's done several training classes with us. So that's basically saying that our classes are inferior to Arda's high-level guide schools.
But wait, let's say this, Aaron, it's 6,000 CFS on the South Fork. You're going to be there for 5-7 days, whatever it is. During that time, you can probably emulate some low water moves. You can probably find stretches of the river and little side channels.
Name me some.
Grace Grandstone left. Grace Grandstone left, the left move, the high water.
No, on the South Fork.
South Fork.
There's that stretch. There's a lot of stretches where you can sort of go off into side channels or slower current and practice some of those moves. Whereas at low water, you would be really hard pressed to find a place where you can emulate high water. You can't. Like, it's like, well, you'll just have to see when you get there. Like,
yeah, I remember that. Remember that guide school we on the South Fork where I took them all north up to the Cal Salmon? Because that year it was like washed out. It was at those tweener flows, and we're like, dude, we're not getting anything out of this. It was just like, it was so open, and there was like, it's hard. I think it's really hard in the South Fork to find those spots at certain flows, like, because it's just really there's not much there.
I'm starting to see Aaron's point a little bit here. Is like when you're learning to guide. I mean, Steve, I'm still with you here, but like if you're just guiding a flushed out South Fork, you're learning no technical skills. You're just in the middle of the river saying forward paddle. You don't have to make many moves. There's a few, but like they're so fast. You're not like running, instead of running Fowler's Rock and like making some back paddles and making some, like looking at your angles, pulling away from the line of danger. You're just like pointing.
Crashing down the left.
Yeah. So I think it's hard to learn to be an actual boater when the water's high. I think it's difficult.
Like and I think that's a great example. Is if you had been doing low water technical South Fork for a week, and then when did you have the high water line at Fowler's, we have to stay left, you'd have no problems. You're like, oh, I got to stay close to these rocks and just kind of go around here on the left. I can do that easily.
To be clear in this discussion,
but that's like
Steve, I'm still on Steve's side. I'm still with Steve, but I see where you're coming from here, and that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
You're just being like Tyler. And I agree with a little bit of what Aaron says.
No, I see where he's coming from, because it's like when he mentioned that the South Fork was flushed out and he had to go to Cal Salmon. Like, yeah, because you're not really learning much. You're just floating down a big river. You know, it's like there's not much to move. There's not any moves to make. But if you make a mistake, it's bad. So like I can see that, but I would rather hire a guy with high water experience than low water experience, because the guy with high water experience, when we have high water, they understand it.
Yes, that's my point.
And I do a lot of like high water middle fork trips where I'm training people up on, like, I give them a whole lot of training on it, and then when they go do it, it's like, oh, you didn't apply that very well. Like, that should have been a downstream ferry. Why are you pushing? You know, or like you almost, yeah. So I'd rather have high water experience. Hey, can I ask my question? I've been sitting on for like 5 minutes.
Well, let's go through this. Let's go through these other couple comments first.
We'll get to them. Let me ask this question, because you keep putting me off. And it's related to Heidi's, I think, about guide schools. Aaron, when somebody takes Lake Tahoe Community College, like they want to learn how to row, be a great rower, and they follow your advice. They take the Lake Tahoe Community College Guide School. Is this high water South Fork Spring a good place for them to learn the skills they need to be able to row?
I think it's going to be a better year than normal to learn to row because we're going to be doing more rowing just because of the I think we'll be running more paddle combos. So I think it's going to be, and I think this is the year if you want to learn skills to like go down to the Grand Canyon. This is a year, or the washed out South Fork at 4,000 is a great place to learn Grand Canyon skills because we can work up. We're going to practice probably a lot of downstream ferries into eddies. We're going to work a lot on those types of skills because I think that's what you can do. So I think it's a great year for that in terms of learning those big water moves, which are the Grand Canyon style, the rowing type of moves. So yeah, I think it's kind of funny now that you said it, it's good conditions for that.
And you're going to have a lot of oar frames. So like instead of a lot of more paddleboard, you're going to have more oar frames.
We're going to run. I think we're going to run oar paddle combos a lot. I think we'll do the first day paddle boats still. Like what we do usually do the first day is just do from like Lotus down to Greenwood Creek. So it's a short section. So everyone gets a chance to, I think one problem with schools is sometimes they try to do too many miles every day versus just like when it's such a short section, you can take as long as you want. Okay, everyone's going to practice ferrying across the river right here at Camp Lotus. Okay, everyone's going to get a chance to do this. Now we're going to go down the way. Okay, now we're all going to practice these skills. And then we're going to do this. And so we can take our time and then they're like, oh, we got to go. It's game late. Okay, cool. It's a mile down to take out and then boom, we're back up. So our first day we'll do all paddle boating still and we'll see how that goes and see how everyone is. And then we'll assess from there and assess the flows and stuff like that. But maybe we'll probably throw at least one oar frame on the next day, depending on our numbers and what's going on. Maybe all three. I don't know. We'll see. It just depends on what we decide we're doing. So, like how full is the rest? There's a lot of variables involved. So.
I have another question. We're going to change from high water, low water, but it's similar dynamic. Would you rather train someone who is really good at rowing how to be a paddleboat captain, or someone who is really good at paddleboat captaining how to be a rower?
Oh,
which is there an easier?
I'd rather teach somebody the paddle captain how to row. The other way around.
The other way around.
It doesn't translate.
Yeah, the paddleboaters can learn to row so quickly and easily. That's easy. The rowers
easier than the rower to a paddleboat captain.
Oh yeah,
they never get it. They almost never get it. There's so much rower mentality that it's just so hard to teach them to paddleboat. They can do it, but they're not going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think that's why in the schools, even Steve, when we did the artist schools, we'd start with the paddle boating and go to the rowing later. I think the progression works real nicely. And I think
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with Zach.
Okay, good. Let's go to that next question.
Aaron, this is what it feels like.
Math majors. If Zach agrees with Aaron, and I agree with Zach, is that the communicative property?
That's geometry.
Associative property.
That's like that's math for English people. Geometry.
No, it is one of those things. Like there's one of those things we're talking about.
Associative property.
It basically means I don't remember.
It's associative
I can tell you in German.
If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C.
It's the Aufwünschen principle in German, just so you know.
Okay.
I thought you guys would have that one down. Anyhow, onward.
No. That's like third grade math. I never taught.
That's where I stopped. That's where I gave up.
But it's actually kind of fun to be on your side for once, Steve. Usually it's you two ganging up on me. It's kind of nice to it's way more relaxing than being in the hot seat all the time.
Aaron and I talked about it. Outside the show.
Oh yeah,
we're trying to make you feel better.
Aaron's comment was he is the host. So
yeah.
Okay. So belly line. Do you guys run it the short way or long way underneath your boat?
Well, I refer to a belly line as the long way. The sideways I call something else. I don't even know. I don't know if that's just what I call it, but I could be totally off. I have no idea.
If I had my choice, I would run it the long span across the bottom of the boat, bow to stern. I think that gives you more options for pulling yourself up, which is what it's for, right?
Yeah, you can grab from the front and the back. I've run both. I'll say Grand Canyon, everyone usually runs bow to stern. Down in the Fuda, we ran widthwise. I like
Did you-
widthwise because I usually end
If
up on the
it's-
side of the boat and I can just grab
if
it
it's-
and pull them right away.
If it's
But-
widthwise, you don't call it. Do you still call it a belly line?
Well, I think he is. I never called it a belly line, anyways. I called it a flip line, which is confusing. And belly line is a way better term, and I should probably start using that instead. But I'll say a couple of things. Like, I think the best is like this triangle you do in the back. If you do a triangle in the back where you go like widthwise, like imagine going through the holes of the self bailer, through the holes in the side, back to the back D-ring in the background, so you make a V in the back. And so you can reach up over the side and grab it. You can also come up the back and grab it, and it's not flipping, or you can make it a lot more snug and tighter, and it's just not floating all over the place in the same way. And it seems like it has less drag. So that's my
And
favorite.
ideally, you would do that
So,
at
like,
both ends of the boat.
I just do it on the back.
Well, you don't. What if you
You'll
come up at the other end of the boat?
Yeah.
Well, because I'm the guide, I'm in the back, and it's more drag. I don't want all that drag, and I don't want another line to maintain underneath the boat. I just want one line. Most people are gonna be able to climb up anyways.
every time you flip, you're in the back. You don't pop up at the front ever.
No, I
always
usually
flip
pop
on
up
the
on the side. Usually I pop up right on the side, grab, pull myself up.
First of all,
I flipped a lot,
Aaron,
so yes. Usually, almost.
Aaron,
every time.
I watched as an instructor last year try to climb up the side of a raft. He just could not get up the side of the raft. Like, he's trying to demonstrate that way, because not all rafts are the same. Like, the one he's used to, he climbed up the side on, but he got on a new boat. He tried to climb up the side, and the boat just kept tilting up. And so,
yeah,
I think it depends on your boat whether you climb up the front or the side. I don't think it's a. I'm very wary to have people climb up the sides.
Yeah, because you don't like doing it
As a habit.
But
I can do it on
my
some
only
boats, but, like,
problem is with the wing boats and like the airboats where it's really hard to get your fingers in there. I don't like those ones.
So we, on our wing boats, we have little straps now.
Yeah.
They all have like little loops. You just go boom, grab the loop, and you're up so fast. Like, I love the little loops now. It's kind of mandatory in the wing boats. But I'm gonna show you guys this photo. This is of us. I don't know if you can see the belly line, but we put this on a couple days ago. You can see a little long line boat, a long line go down the center of the boat. And so this, I don't know if you can see this picture very well, but the holes on this NRS floor, there's just no way you're going to get your fingers in the holes.
From the end, yeah.
From the end. Like,
Way
I
up
could
there.
do it. Asa, who's a rock climber, was in long arms. Asa was able to do this big dynamic move and get it once. So we put a long line, what I would call a belly long, like what we're talking about, and it worked. It was awesome. Like,
Why don't you just
everybody
go up the sides, Zach?
I tried. There's the handle. See what there's no handles.
You don't need a handle. You reach up over the top and put your fingers in the holes and pull yourself up.
You're stronger than me. Then I can't do that.
I can't do that either.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, when you guys are doing the IRF thing, the flip drill,
Yeah.
and the boat is upside down,
Mhm.
your technique is to get on top of it and flip it back over. Can you flip it back over without getting on top of it? Can you?
Yeah.
If you had a line to the other side,
Uh-huh.
and because sometimes when you start to pull yourself up, the boat comes over.
To pass the assessment, you have to get on the boat. The assessment is actually like part physical fitness test.
Yeah,
because you have to get in it 3 times. So, I would probably I have to read the assessment carefully, but I'm pretty sure you have to get on the upside down boat and count your passengers. So you have to be on the upside down boat. You can't do it. So the way IRF assessment starts is you're in the water next to a right side up boat. You climb in, flip it over. You have to keep control of your paddle. Throw your paddle on the upside down boat. Climb in, count your passengers. That's a key component that people miss. Then flip it back over. Keep control of your paddle. Get back in.
Because in real life, you wouldn't count your passengers when you got up on top of your upside down boat. There's no reason to do that.
You'd probably look for
that. That is a silly, silly step. That's a silly step. It makes sense. I understand why they do it in the course, and it makes sense in there. But just to say in real life, just get on top of your boat, flip it back over, and get back in, and then look around. Why are you upside down on your boat? I
mean, this is a place where I think it depends. I agree with you, Aaron, that I'm probably just going to flip that boat back over and get back in it and then find my passenger. I'm going to get that because I don't want to. I'm like, if I can get there, flip it really quick, and get back in like 10 seconds, I'm probably just going to do that. I don't think all guides can flip it that fast. So it's like it's a reminder to look for your passengers for sure. And you can do this whole flip drill. Like this means getting in it's a 2 minute, you have 2 minutes to do it, but a good guide can do it in 45 seconds. So like, if you can like get in a boat, flip it, get back on the boat, flip it, and get back in 45 seconds, you probably don't need to count the passengers, but it's a good habit to have in this.
No, I agree. And I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying, like, I think it's good to pause when you get up there. And my pause is look around, scene safety, where am I going?
Yeah.
Is this a safe place to flip my boat back over? That, to me, that pause is good. But that's what I'm really doing, that pause. Just looking around, what's going on, checking, okay, I'm ready, I'm going to flip it. Checking where are people. Maybe I have to tell people, hey, let go of the boat so I can flip it back over. So it's not, I want to say I'm not like against it all. I just think like the idea that you're counting your passengers, I think is like.
And literally all you have to do to pass this part is just do this and you're done. It's like, so like counting your passengers, it just, you point your fingers a few times and that counts and you go for the reflip.
Okay. And the other thing I'm going to say, 45 seconds.
Why are we let's go to why are we counting passengers?
Because that's our.
To make sure we have everybody.
Because we want to make sure they're not underneath the boat.
Or just
that's why it doesn't make sense. Exactly, Steve. You're right. I'm right there with you. Yeah, there's no reason.
But if they're underneath the boat
and you flip it back over,
you can't if they're underneath the boat.
Yeah, you can.
And they're holding on to the boat.
Maybe.
Or they're trapped underneath the boat.
If they're trapped, is that a thing? Does that happen? I mean, I never heard that happen.
It could happen.
But yeah. I'm counting the passengers. I mean, in my mind, it's because somebody could just be like gone. Like they could be like stuck in a tree.
Okay.
I'm going to say that. I'm going to say this. That you should not be counting that. Your team on the other raft should be counting.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree with that. I would suggest that as a change to that IRF thing.
I would agree with this, but
I think almost I would say a pause to say, okay, scene safety, guests,
but there's no
depth, where am I going?
I think it's just like it's put in there as a reminder that finding everybody's important. So it's like I don't think it's what you have to. When I reflip a boat, I'm not going to count my guests usually. I'm just going to get it back over. But it's a reminder to pause that like the count needs to happen. Which I just remembered a trip, Steve, where somebody flipped the top of Gray's Grindstone, and we counted all the passengers. We couldn't find them. It was because you had pulled one into your boat so fast. I don't remember this, but like there was a flip. You pulled a guest into your boat to save them, like immediately. And we thought we were we couldn't find somebody. That's how good you are.
But wait, let's say that maybe the pause is more important than the counting the passengers, because there are times where you don't want to flip that boat back over, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You want to ride it out and you want to pull people up on top of the upside down boat and wait till you're in a better place to flip back over. So I think
like at the top of Gray's, like if you're at the top of Gray's,
in the middle of Gray's, if you
I'm gonna just pull people on the boat, and I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm not gonna. Let's just get bodies on the boat.
Yeah, get up here. We're riding this one.
I'd flip it back over. I think you have time.
Depends on the flow, for sure.
It takes 45 seconds to climb on top, flip it over, climb back on top, flip it back over, climb back in.
Waves and like we're not all there in Cavinolo.
You could do it in 20 seconds. 25.
Not if you have people hanging onto the side of the boat, getting in your way, rocks, eddies. I don't think that's.
I don't know.
I think there are times when you want to just keep it upside down, ride it out. I think that would be a better.
If I go to reflip the boat, I know I might not get back to that boat in the top of Gray's because I might get caught in a current and eddied out. Like I'm going to flip the boat over. There's separation there. What if the boat takes off and I can't get back to it? So I'm going to choose not to reflip. But of course, Aaron Cavignolo, I mean, water polo god / king of the river, you should. The rest of us.
I'm saying it's like, you're just, how helpful is it to be up on top of an upside down boat? It's really hard to stay on it. You're going to get tossed off of it. You're going to hit some feature.
Yeah.
How are you holding on? And that's why I'm like, I just flip it back over because you're probably going to flip back over going to the next feature down there. No, I'd probably get right side up, get in it, and then have some control.
You might or you might not.
On it.
If I fall off, then I'm gonna then I'll just hold on and do some control.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation. If for me at top of grays, I'm just gonna get on it and like hope I don't fall off.
Let's look
I am
at some
too, and I'm
more.
gonna appreciate having that belly line
Yeah.
to help me hold on.
Totally.
Yeah.
The belly line. That's a great term. The belly line. What we got some more comments here.
All right. So
Did you get
Heidi
Have you
says
said
our
Heidi's yet?
class are thank you. Like now you're pandering. So
No
our
injuries
class,
on your
your
classes.
stuff
Well
is good
done,
too.
Heidi. Well done.
Yeah.
Nice recovery.
We should hurt more people, and then maybe we can move up in your
Wait. Did Heidi win the rower
ultimate
contest?
river runner? She's the ultimate river runner.
Yeah. Heidi,
So-
we gotta see that new dry suit you get. I want to
More credibility for that.
Yeah, no, she's. I mean, yeah. So we're, but thanks. I'm glad ours are good too. But this is just a good reminder for those of you that want to learn how to row. Probably your best options are one, Aaron's Lake Tahoe Community College Guide School, especially this year at high water when the flow is going to be 6,000 CFS or so. Two, ARDA has a wonderful professional guide school. That is a wonderful place to learn how to row. And then if those are full, we have some courses too that I don't know. They're good.
Zach,
they're good too.
I thought your courses don't have any space in them, so you really don't even bother.
I mean, it's shocking to me that they're full because really they should be in these other classes first. All right, everything across the cross is called catch everything in the river line. I think across.
I'm this.
This is a high water thing. This is a high water thing.
Thomas, I'm going to say this. Are you trying cross widthwise or cross lengthwise? Because lengthwise it's a lot longer. And guess what? It's not that often you're floating over something. You're floating straight downstream. Usually you're going in an angle. So you've got way more. When it's bow to stern, it's a lot longer. And I feel like you're talking this way. The widthwise is a catch everything line.
They're both.
I think the bow to stern's more of a catch everything line
and it's longer.
Most of the time,
high water Tuolumne, high water Middle Fork, high water Grand Canyon, you're probably not going to catch a rock. But low water Tuolumne, low water Middle Fork, you are not running these lines. You're going to catch stuff. So it depends on the flow. Right?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you could run a bow to stern belly line tight to your boat at any water level and never notice it. Catching things on the river, I don't think that happens. I don't think any of it has it ever happened to either of you.
I don't run
my
these lines.
flip line, my belly line got stuck.
I've never run a belly.
Snagged on a rock. It's not going to get snagged on a rock.
I guess
maybe a stick. Oh yeah, stick went up in there and through my little loop and messed me up.
Steve, I think you have a point. The probability is.
Wait, Steve, have you? I've been. Let me get in. I've never. I think people should run these. I've never run one, so I'm just pontificating something I don't do. I can get in a boat without a belly line, so it's not a concern for mine. Have you ever run a belly line, Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, and at low water?
No. So but I don't know why I wouldn't. If it helps me get on top of the boat, I think that you could say, okay, I'm going to flip it. I can flip it low water. I can flip it high water.
So do you think they should be standard in every boat? Just let's just run them all the time.
I'm not going to go that far. But I'm going to say if it helps you get on top. I think if you need that to help you get, I'd rather have a flip line to help me get on top of an upside down boat than to not have it. Like if you need it, put it on your boat.
I think they'll catch. I think they'll catch stuff. I don't know what or how, but I have no experience, so I don't know. I've never tried it. I don't have any reason to think they'll catch, but it just seems like they'll catch stuff. Now I want to try it. Now I want to put one on the sweep.
But I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. They take a lot. It's like a perimeter line. They take a lot of maintenance.
Sure.
And they loosen up, and they loosen up, and you got to be tightening them, and you got to be maintaining them, and they do get loose over time. And I think, Steve, what you used to run on the 8-bonds is great, where you'd go the webbing through a couple holes. You could reach if that webbing is not being used to tie to those pieces of webbing work almost as well. They're going to be way less likely to catch on something. I think those, and Steve and Zach, sounds like what you're running on your wing boats. Same idea.
I'm actually super stoked on that.
I think that's the answer, because then it's permanently attached. You're not having to mess with it all the time.
Yes, I agree with that.
But yeah, the belly line made a difference because this one guy's boat, this NRS boat he had, you couldn't, even if you attached those, you still couldn't reach them. So we had to run. His only option was a belly line. And I think if I was doing a high water Tuolumne now, like now that I'm older, I'd probably put one on there because like I don't want there to be any. I just want to get up there and I want to have to grab onto when I'm going down Gray's Grandstone upside down. So the other value Steve mentioned earlier is once you're on the upside down boat, the belly line is something you and your passengers can grab when the boat's upside down.
I'm gonna say that more important than the belly line, if we have those other little lines on there, I think is a perimeter line at high water around the outside of the boat.
To just hold on to while the boat's upside down?
Or right side up. So you stay
right
with the
side up.
boat. It's easier to stay with the boat. You're less likely to get separated from the raft. I think that at high water is very extremely helpful. Yeah. But dude, Justin's got all the cool names.
Yeah,
the belly line, the triangle of hope.
Yeah.
I like the name.
I mean, man, I don't know what he's the namer right there. We're gonna need Justin to name some other things for us too.
Tyler, this is disappointing. Only that, like, I assumed you agreed with us the whole time. The fact that you agree with Aaron at all is actually disappointing.
But they're not saying to normally do it, Tyler. They're just saying sometimes that's the best option, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I think sometimes that could be the best option, but in general, I'm about getting that boat upright and getting people into it. Because once you get people on the upside down boat, they are not going to want to get back in the water to flip that boat. So you're like, oh, we'll ride it out to the bottom of the rapid, and then we're going to flip it back over. Well, guess what? They are not going to want to get back in the water. They're not going to have to.
They're not going to have to. Bottom of the rapid, I'm going to be surrounded by 3 other boats. They're going to get into another boat. You're going to get in your boat and flip it back over all by yourself. They're going to get back in. They're never going to get in the water again. Keeping them out of the water.
That's nice that it's going to work out like that, because sometimes it doesn't.
No, when you have proper boat spacing and like you work as a team, that's exactly what Steve said is going to happen. But when you work with a team that doesn't work as a team,
Aaron,
that's where team boating is so important.
You could have 2 boats that flip though, and they could be chasing swimmers. You could have some swimmers who were not with your boat and they're chasing swimmers. This is the thing: is when you're on your upside down boat, you're a victim. You are not part of the rescue. You are a victim waiting to be rescued in your on your lifeboat, versus you're a rescue craft when you're right side up. And I'd rather be a rescue craft.
You're not a rescue craft when you're right side up. It's one person in the boat. What are you going to do?
Oars,
Assuming you have oars, what if it's a paddle boat?
Well, you have 2 paddles. I like to have 2 paddles always in my paddle boat in this case, so I can get on top of it. When I don't have paddle, I've got 2 there, one other person, and then you can be a rescue.
Oh, so what you need a person too. So assuming
no, you could R1 it. You could R1 it, but usually there's going to be someone else around if it's a paddle boat that you pull back in, and then you can go rescue people.
By the way, Aaron, by Arab standards, you did have your paddle. You didn't need the spare paddles. You had it in your hand. You controlled it. So
I don't let go of my paddle. In general, I don't let go of my paddle, but I'm just saying you want 2 spare paddles for that reason. Because then 2 spare paddles does a lot. And then you're not just some victim like, great, I'm a boat. We don't have any paddles. What do we do? Help us. Like, you don't want to be in that situation. When you're upside down, you can kind of paddle upside down. Yeah, okay. But it's just like, if you get that boat right side up, you can be an active part of the rescue situation instead of a detrimental part in general. That's what I feel like.
That's a pretty good point. It's a pretty good point. I think there are times when you need to just play not victim.
Oh, totally.
I'm going to
totally agree.
Stay in the survival mode rather than the rescue mode. I want to go back to the holes in the bottom of the boat briefly for a second. I don't know where they are in a NRS 160, but I have done this in our Avons, is in that channel of floor material, drilled holes.
Yeah.
And added more drain holes and put loops in there. So you can add those loops pretty easily. It's way better than gluing something to the boat. Like, it's a pretty solid, reliable thing. And I don't think, oh, my boat doesn't have those drain holes. Like, this isn't an option for me. I think there are ways to add those drain holes.
How did you do that?
I have an answer.
How did you make those holes?
I have an answer for this. I'm gonna step in.
Hole drill, hole saw.
We had this discussion, the same discussion the other day, and Asa, who I work with, he worked at Sotar. There's a special stamp.
Yep.
They use to stamp the holes.
Yeah,
so
it's a
like
punch.
Yeah, you like the manufacturers can punch the holes. Like you could drill the hole, but I would worry about there being some, like, you mess up the material. There's a thing, you put a piece of wood on, you punch it, you're done. That's why I'd recommend having like a manufacturer do it.
or just
No, I
getting
like this.
yeah, I think you can do it. Don't think that you can't. I don't think you have to just be stuck with the way it's comes from the factory. I think it's a really good way to modify your boat, to add those handles, never have to worry about them. They're not going to get less likely to get snagged on something. I think it's a good idea.
I've seen people glue handles under the boats, which is better
This
than
is
not
an
building your
alternative
boat,
to that
but
that I think is
yeah.
better.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. So that's what we said. Like the first thing when he couldn't flip his boat back over in practice, I kind of joked like, you probably need a new boat, honestly. And then we came up with solutions. We were like, well, what can we do to solve this problem? One of them was just like put your flip line on one side, swim to the other side, and climb up your flip line on the side. Aaron doesn't like that. I don't like it either, but it's a solution. Like
Right. And I've seen that done. I've seen that
nothing's
taught.
left. And then we put the belly line on. And then we just said, hey, make some new drain holes get it done professionally, and then put some straps in. That's another option. Yeah.
I did it unprofessionally, and the boats
I mean, you're a
still on
professional.
the water. And they work fine.
You're a professional repairer person.
No,
Not everybody is.
I had a drill. I had a hole saw. I looked at the thing. I said, this isn't going to hurt anything. Yes, the material, the nylon inside the
You might
Hyperion
start fraying.
started fraying. It's inconsequential.
You could heat it up though, so you could melt through it, and then
You could heat it up. You could punch through it. I didn't have a punch. I had a hole saw on the end of a drill, put in a 1/2-inch hole, ran some webbing through there, tied the knot. Solid. What I did it for originally was, it's in the very, very back of the pros that we used as gear boats on the Tuolumne, and it was to give a point to tie down bags in the back of the boat, like a way to be able to go down low and then come back up. So be able to pull everything really close down to hard to the floor. Then all of a sudden you flip the boat over and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a handle right here that I can pull myself up. It's another, 18 inches above the carrying handle in a really good spot for pulling yourself on top of an upside down boat from the end. You could add those to the sides. You could put 6 of those on a boat, and I don't think it would be a bad thing ever.
We originally put them in some of our Avons because there weren't enough. Like when you put a creek frame in, the D-rings weren't always in the right place. Mm-hmm. And so we just put that things down there. And you just tie the creek frames to the floor and they're bomber.
But you then cannot use them as handles.
Yep. Once the frame's tied in.
Once they're tight,
where we put the creek frames in isn't where you'd want to handle anyway.
Right. You have to put.
We had loops there, and so we didn't put them in back then. We just put our fingers in the holes and struggled on our way up and cut our fingers. Remember the metal things just to cut your fingers on the whole thing. I think. Yeah. And what I'm seeing a lot in the real world is people have never looked at their boat upside down. Mm-hmm. So when they try to get on their boat upside down for the first time, and no matter what boat, I can tell you every brand of boat, which ones you'll struggle, which ones are easy, because I've seen this so many times. But looking at your boat upside down, and not just on land thinking about where to put the handles, but where you're floating in the water, knowing where you reach to perfectly and putting a loop in there if you need it is so critical. I had some guides tie them in a couple of years ago where they thought they went. And then when you try to in the water, you try to get in there, you couldn't reach it because where you think they should go, where they actually should, on land where you think they should go versus where they actually should go based on you floating in your PFD are different places. I got comments. First of all, Sean, honestly, I'm just glad somebody's doing it better than we are. I mean, we're barely keeping our head above water. I'm just happy to hear somebody's doing better than we are. Okay. There's no video on belly lines coming up. It's a thing I'm not sure I want to give.
You don't want to talk about your belly lines?
I mean, it's not hard. Just run a rope.
But you could do an alternatives. You could do a whole set of ways to rig your boat to make it easier to get back on top of or inside.
I'll try to.
We just did it. We just did it in this thing.
I know, but
there's some nuance to it though. There's definitely some nuance.
There's a lot of nuance. If I had a bunch of upside down boats in my yard and I had a camera crew, it would be a great video. And Thomas has that same comment that Steve, cutting the drain holes.
No, he's just making the holes a little bigger so you can get your fingers in them.
Oh, I don't think you want to.
And then Thomas, you're saying you don't have to remember to put the line, but Thomas, we're talking about is like if you just take a piece of webbing and go through one hole and like skip one and go through another, for example, that worked really well. And just put a piece of like 1-inch webbing and tie it in there. It sits up high in that little cup
Stays
spot,
there forever.
and it'll
Yeah.
sit there and it's
It never
always
comes
there,
off.
and you
Never
can just
comes off.
use those. Yeah.
Put the knot on the inside of the raft.
Mhm.
It's not easy. I mean, you got to get down there and
It's annoying.
on your hands and knees and tie
Yeah.
it. But once it's in there, it's going to stay.
I had guides do it to like 4 boats at once before the Illinois season. And like I said, they tied them incorrectly. And I was like, guys, those need to move 3 holes down. When I asked them to retie them, they were like, oh, dude. I'm like, hey, guys, you can't reach that. You can't reach it. Like, it's not a fun project. But you want them tight. You want them tight, too. They tied one and it was like a big loop. I'm like, nope, make it tighter. Like, it's a project for sure. That's a good idea.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Same thing. Yep.
So Thomas, I like the wing boats a lot. There are a handful of things. If I could sit down with a wing, I could fix in those boats. This is maybe one of them. Like they're good. They're not perfect. There are some things. I just sent them an email on how to fix their thwarts. But I also have a job. Like I can't be wings free consultant all the time on stuff. So, but at the same time, that it's a hinged floor. You can't really get your fingers in those hinged floors on the wings. You kind of have to, on a wing, tie these loops in. Like, if your fingers are cold at all, you have zero chance of getting an upside down wing. So, like, they don't even have drain holes. It's a hinge. So I would for sure put these webbing loops we just talked about in there.
Hey, so what do you guys think is the easiest boat to climb onto when it's upside down?
Easiest boat?
I mean, smaller tubes house. I mean,
No, what
the
brand?
brand? Assuming all
Inflatable
the
kayak. High side ducky. I can do that
Assuming
one. No problem.
all the same.
45
I think
seconds.
the duckies are kind of hard sometimes. It's awkward.
45 seconds. I can do it.
I kind of like the Avons. I just know the holes and the position of the handle at the end is really good. Like Avons, errors are pretty easy too. Those
Really?
like the way they string the floors, it's really easy to get a couple fingers in there. Errors are pretty easy
You don't
too.
think Sotar is the easiest? With
Sotar's
that
easy. No,
piece-
Sotar's easy.
That piece of material, you can just like grab it like this and just.
No, you're right.
I feel like the Sotar.
Zach,
is
what's
just
the
like-
black boat
That's
that
a
you
wing.
have?
That's a wing.
That one seems to have a really good grip
I put
spot.
blue hand. No,
What's
there's blue hoopy in the black one.
On the front, on the bow and the stern, the floor raft tube connection thing seems like it has a really good easy spot. When we did the flip toes on your rowing schools, that one seemed to be the easiest for people to get on top of.
But there is
I think
blue.
it's also small.
It's not.
They
no.
were just using the hinge or whatever you call it, the cuff that's right
Really?
there. Mm-hmm. That's how I
So-
remember it.
Sotar is the easiest. You're right, Aaron, because it has that like you can just
Mhm.
put your hand under this thing and climb up. The black wing, I didn't think it had that, SD, but there are blue webbing loops in that one with like 1/2-inch webbing, not 1-inch webbing. That I'm surprised. I find the black one easy to get into, but I thought it had the same hinged floor that you can't stick a finger in. But I have to look at it again.
Yeah, look at it again.
The Sotars, you're right, are the easiest. Airs are pretty easy. The wings, you kind of have to put the thing in. I think
The Avons, you should.
the Avons, you
It sounds like
should.
you have to. The NRS
it
boats
helps.
need additional holes.
Some do. This is an older one.
Some do, yeah.
But the comment I make to the students in our classes is that like the manufacturers are not designing the boats to make them easier to get in when they're upside down. This is not a consideration at all on their mind. Like there's in general, the manufacturers, there is no really good boater who is there sitting down with them, giving them the details to get right. Like they're just making boats. They're just following patterns. There's not like some expert there. So like they're not thinking about this when they design the boat. So you have to look at your upside down boat and change some things or add some things to make it work for you. It'd be sweet if there was a consideration like handle placement so you can get up on the handle. That would be a nice consideration. And on the wing boats, if they pre-install this webbing or at least they gave advice to install it, that would be
Or
a
put the
nice
holes.
feature. They're not holes though. It is just like, there's not actual holes there. You can't put holes in the wing.
They can punch holes in that flap, right?
I have to look at it again. But you can just like I said, there's the hinges. You just run some webbing through there. It works great. Like I love that. Sean, yeah, of course, Aaron's Lake Tahoe Community College Guide School.
Oh, geez.
Probably where you want to go learn how to row.
No, Zach, come on. You've refined yours over the years. We teach one course a year. Ours is it's a nice little course, but it's not like what you're doing.
Honestly, I think
you're training up all these instructors.
We probably teach too many. We're probably teaching too many courses, and we're just burnt out and kind of like that. We're like, you're fresh and come into it with enthusiasm. We just stumble into it hungover and just do our best to like provide some education. You're really
if you like to party and drink, go to Zach's.
You're really the hero out there. No. The instructors, like we show up hungover every morning. Like we don't really know what we're teaching. Right. We're like, hey, just sit here while we get stuff together.
I'm going to agree with Sean. I would love to take a class 4 school from Zach.
I'd love to take a class 4 school from you, Steve.
We'll do it together. But
we'll do it together. We'll take a class 4 school from each other at the same time. Okay, so gentlemen, we're actually like I have 6 things to talk about in the intro, and we're still at entertainment, not education, on my list of things to talk about in the intro. So can we just like continue on with the intro to the show, if that's okay?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that was a great discussion. I think I'm going to change the title of the show from River Madness to High Water Boating because we didn't even do anything I wanted to do. But I want to share with you guys for a second. We updated Whitewater Guidebook a little bit. It looks a little bit different. See our shows, Aaron. Look at that as a podcast. Yeah. And as you shall know, for everybody to know, like you can ask a question or comment if you want to ask a question or comment, or the Tuesday show just might die because we don't have any questions, which is fine. You can go to the rafting forum here and ask us general rafting questions. That's a place to do it. And Heidi, the big news is that it should work on mobile now. I know you let me know it didn't work on mobile. The menu should work on mobile. So please, everyone, go to Whitewater Guidebook for all kinds of fun things. And don't forget, this is also a podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you're not seeing the video we're talking about, and it's much better as a YouTube channel. All right, gentlemen, you ready to start the show?
Been
Cue
waiting.
the intro. Cue the intro.
We already did the intro. Hey, actually, there you go. See? Yeah, because LTC is like it's much more physically challenging.
Oh, geez. Come on.
It's already, hey, Sean, it's already sold out for next year. You're gonna have to think 2025. So, do we have a Steve's Mental Angle?
No, that's a Friday show.
This is a Friday show on Tuesday.
I thought this was a Tuesday show earlier on Tuesday.
Okay, so do you guys want to look at some video? Do you want to do some video review, or are we gonna finish the show soon?
We'll do a video.
Okay.
You got one?
We can do a video.
Okay, I'm gonna share. Sorry, I have to get this ready. First of all, there's something I think Aaron will enjoy. I don't want to get Aaron's thoughts about. Have you seen this, Aaron?
Wow.
What is that?
It's a sail for your pack raft.
Little pack raft.
Yeah.
That's great. You're going with the wind, and then you got to paddle back against the wind afterwards. That's trouble.
Well, she has a paddle.
Maybe she's going home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa, look at that. That's kind of cool. It's got the opening on it. That's interesting.
I'll bet that thing gets going.
I just thought of this because Aaron, you do live by an ocean, and I think they have maybe even have wind in Hawaii.
Yeah, and if I caught wind by an ocean, in fact, you live on an island and you catch wind. Where are you going? Not good, man. Not
San Francisco.
For a second.
That's what your paddle's for.
Sure.
Okay, well, I saw that and thought
we have done some paddling run. That looks great. That looks outstanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
And then, yeah, well, I thought you'd be more excited. And I can't help myself with all the bedrock footage.
Oh boy,
Uh,
this angle is not good. Not
Oh,
good.
it's the wrong. It's the. That is so frustrating, isn't it?
He's getting it though
It's
now.
kind of-
Now they're
His
getting the
angle got better.
There we go. There
His
we
angle's
go.
improving. His angle's improving. Yeah. Pull more with that left. Pull more with your left.
There we go.
This is the guy we watched last week, or I think last week.
Come on.
You see how
come
far
on.
away his oars are? His oar length is. You can just really tell here the oar length is.
See, this is how you know it's class 3 because he had a horrible angle at the beginning and he still made it easily.
That looked like a class 3 move right there.
Thanks, Steve.
This isn't the competition, Aaron. I think
Man.
like you don't have to downstream ferry this move. You can just like maintain your angle and keep going, and it's gonna be, but it really helps to look at that line.
Oops. Yep. Seen that before, haven't we?
But they're pulling together, so they just switch. Look at that. That's the pro move right there.
Wow. Wow.
They missed it by miles.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, these are great lines here.
That's the left side of bedrock right there.
Yeah.
Did you see that Bruce Helene said at low water the line is going left of bedrock? Did you see that?
I think he said below
8,000, 6 or 8,000 something, right?
Yeah, like he says that's the regime. So that guy was not making it. Like he just spun. I don't know if you could kind of see him up there in the distance.
And the camera person runs to the other side of the rock.
Yeah.
That's a good indicator.
So what do you guys think about him having a throwback right there? Would you throw that bag?
No.
Yeah.
Ooh, they already flipped. Oh.
Which he recognized. This video is great. I love this video.
Yeah, there's a nasty either. That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have it. That's a really smart reason to have the rope out there. Having said that, I wouldn't throw him the bag. I'd throw him a couple coils if they're stuck in that eddy. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Just
have
throw
like 10 feet ready and just drop 10 feet of coils.
Yeah,
So
so that
70 feet of rope doesn't come out there and get tangled in.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's a smart reason to have it. That's cool. He put that little note in there of what he was doing because that's a brilliant reason to have it out there.
Yep. Yeah, it's so funny. Like people are already worried they're going to get roasted for posting things. Like they're he's almost like he's almost ready for all the comments you get.
Yeah.
Commenters on YouTube leave some interesting comments. But so like this is the thing I'm worried about happening when we ran Bedrock. The boat didn't flip, but the guy came out, and then it did. This is a decent throw. Did he need to throw the throw bag?
I think he's going to float right to him in the eddy.
Yeah.
But
I'm not like, I don't think like I needed a throw bag, but I bet he appreciated it. But this happened to us. Our boat was right side up in this eddy up here, and rescuing a boat stuck in this eddy right side up was hard. An upside down boat is brutal. Right? Like,
Where is that? That eddy's on river left
above
the top of this rapid.
Yeah, above the channel.
So that boat, when it flipped, before we watched the swimmer get pulled in, it got stuck on a rock on river left, and then it washed back into that eddy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're seeing it now.
It looks like it's circulating around. So if you got down to the rocks on the right, you could grab it right there when it's down there, and you could,
eddy out on river left.
So this happened to us. Our right side up boat went down there a couple times before we got there, and then once we got there, it never came down again. I think that's what it
went to the top of the rapid, top of the eddy,
and just stayed there. And this guy, so eventually they just waited, and this one came off.
Came out. Yeah,
came out. But we so for us, it did. Hold on, let's go. It came here a couple times, but by the time we were standing there, it never did it again. And it just.
So what did you guys do?
We took let me just read this really quick. The boat then flushed back to the top of the eddy where we had no safe way of getting to it, and it stayed there for about an hour. In the meantime, we worked on formulating a plan to get it out of the eddy. As it turned out, the right plans of its own. So after an hour, it just kind of came off.
And it would be curious to know what their plan was. What was your plan, Zach?
So That's what I was going to
What
get to.
did you
That's
do?
why I think this is so interesting. First of all, like, remember when we talked about the Stevie part on the show, but those guys who were surfing at Tappan Falls, the Maytag video? You know, talking about. I was like, hey, let's just, when people can surf that long, like, let's just make lunch. Like, it's going to come out eventually, like, you know, kind of just wait. Which is what what ended up happening. They just waited. It came out. Like, eventually these stuffs do resolve. These things generally do resolve on their own. Ours was up there right side up. So we had like a little shredder with us. We put 3 people in the shredder.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
They paddled up. A guy jumped in the right side up boat to row it out. And then the shredder tried to come back, but the shredder couldn't fight the current to get back. Like this, they didn't think about that. Like, how are we going to get back? So we ended up throwing them a throw bag to pull the shredder back down to the eddy, and it worked out fine. And then
how the raft get up?
He rode it out. And I mean, my guess is like 50-50 flip, and he didn't flip.
So you could have done what you did with the shredder is thrown a throw bag up to him and pulled the raft down if it was upside down too, and then
we couldn't.
flipped it over.
Yeah, we couldn't have. I think it was too far from where you are. I don't think we would have made. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
you could have swam a throw bag up there, or 2 throw bags tied together then, because it's just an eddy going up.
I don't think you're gonna pull that current is so strong in that eddy. I don't think you're pulling an upside down boat down through that current. It's just it's way stronger than it looks. Like those guys, they couldn't R2 it paddling at full force. They couldn't R2 faster than the current going upstream. It's really strong current. And the other day I tried to pull an upside down boat on flat water. It was empty. It was hard. I forgot how hard it is to pull an upside down boat.
The upside down boat, that's true, yeah.
I tied my boat to an upside down boat that was just an empty gear boat. And I was just pulling it in flat water. And it just did not want to move. I thought I could do it. I had to give up and call for help. I was like, help. I suck.
If the 3 of us were sitting here formulating a plan for how to get that boat out of that eddy, and one of us suggested, oh, let's have someone swim up to it and get on top of it, and then we can try and get him a throw bag, that would be way down my list of options. Like, I don't think swimming to that boat, having a shredder, having an inflatable kayak, having a kayak up there feels infinitely safer or less risky than sending a swimmer up that eddy to the boat. But Aaron, if it was you,
because you're Aaron,
volunteering to be that swimmer, I would give it a lot. I'd be like, oh,
I'll say this: I'd want a flip line I would want a belly line on the bottom of that boat to climb on top of it. That's for sure. Because by the time you get out there, you're gonna be tired and cold, and you'd be like, oh, great! I want to make sure it's easy to climb onto that. I know I can get out of the water. Because that could end really poorly. That could end very poorly. Yeah.
I can tell you, being there as like my age now, I was like, there's no way I'm swimming that. Because when I was younger, I'm like, oh, I get to be a hero. Like whoever does that, whoever swims up there and does that as a hero. In my 20s, I'm like, oh, I get to go be a hero. And they're going to tell stories about me forever. Like, I'm going to do this. I was up there. I'm just not doing that. If this comes up, like, I'm out. Even taking a ducky up there seems sketchy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we had a ducky, and even that I was like, ooh, man. Like even just a chance of swimming there, people swim this all the time. Everybody who flips here ends up swimming this. So it's not like where you're probably gonna be fine. I just wasn't looking forward to being on those boil lines and that eddy. Like it just seemed really messy. Honestly, like if we were up there, I'd be like, hey guys, where can we camp near here? Let's just wait. Let's have lunch. Let's sing some songs. Eventually this thing's
but then that's your beer boat, and all your beer's on there.
I mean, I don't drink that much anymore anyway, so.
Yeah, or whatever the case. Your stove,
it has my cot.
Your coffee, all the coffee's on that
coffee.
boat.
If that's the coffee, I'm a little more stressed. Yeah,
I'm not worried about that one at all. But let's run this scenario by it. And I don't know if we want to get into specifically this spot, this rapid, this water level. But what if you had more boats upstream?
Yeah.
Very valuable at this. In most cases, like I'll catch that eddy.
You don't want
to pull that boat out.
You don't want to catch that eddy.
Not this eddy ever.
I do it. I would go
because you want to be a hero.
No,
the last thing you want is
I'm gonna say this.
Why would you
I've always wanted to run left. I've always wanted to run left.
That's being a hero. That is like,
No,
hey,
I've always
we're gonna
wanted to
tell
take the left
stories about
line.
me.
I'm going to say this. I've always wanted to take the left line.
Exactly. So why not be a
No,
hero?
but usually I get, it's not good to go over there on purpose in general. But if you had to, you're like, okay, well, at least I can go over there and have a reason to go over there. So I'd be like, yeah, I'll go get it. Let's go check it out. Let's go see. Because I think you can run that left line. Okay. I think there's ways to do it.
It was our second boat went over there. We had like 4, I think it was our second boat. We had 4 or 5 boats upstream.
And were you number 1?
Yeah. No, our third boat was up there. 2 of us were in the eddy and the left of the bottom. Like 2 people who, like the other person we weren't worried about. The next
and then
boat,
you guys decide to run your other boats down and before
we got it.
Oh.
I'm like, let's just run them through. And another boat flipped and went left, but it didn't get caught. So like that boat was already set up in the eddy. Another boat come down, missed it, flipped, swim, and another boat almost flipped. And yeah.
So you had one boat when the first boat went into that eddy. You had one boat downstream,
2 boats downstream,
four
on the
boats,
right,
and 4 boats upstream.
something like that. Yeah, I think that's how many boats we had.
I mean, obviously, communication is going to be difficult in that situation, but I think my first instinct would be let's get 1 or 2 more boats downstream to contain that and to help down here, because 1-on-1 might not be the best ratio you want.
We had a swimmer. First of all, we had a swimmer. So I stayed in the eddy, and then the other boat that was with me in the eddy went and got the swimmer.
Yeah, that's very helpful to have those boats, extra boats downstream. Yeah. But I don't know that having all of the boats downstream, it would be I wouldn't want to give up those upstream boats right away. I'd say having an upstream boat can be really, really helpful in these types of situations.
We've had this exact debate before, Steve. I feel like you and I have had this exact debate where I'm like, once you have no more upstream boats, you can't get them back. Right. And you're like, oh, I wish we had an upstream boat. But I didn't see any value in an upstream boat.
I see a huge amount of value in an upstream boat.
No, nobody in that group was going to catch that eddy. There was 0 people. There were no Aaron Cavanolos.
Zach, the raft caught the eddy on its own without anyone even in rowing it.
No.
Anyone can catch that eddy. Just don't pull right, and you're going to end up in that. Just pull a little left.
No.
You're going to end up in the eddy.
To catch the eddy, it's catching the eddy is like making the move to the right.
No,
you have to have
all the currents going left.
You made the move to the right. If it's that easy, it's a class 3 move.
I could have caught the eddy.
Thanks, Steve.
I could have caught the eddy. Add consequence. I could have caught the eddy. That's not my worry. Then we have 2 boats in the stupid eddy.
Yeah, but one of them's upright. We're talking about assuming
they were both upright.
In your case, they were. But in this case, one wasn't.
I'm going to make the claim that if any boat goes left of bedrock, it has a 50% chance of flipping, no matter who's in the boat.
That's not true.
Okay.
Of all.
I'm going to make that claim.
I'm going to say my data has said otherwise.
You have more data than I do.
Go left.
What I saw was I just think you're taking a high chance of flipping. This is left of bedrock. That after this part, the skill doesn't matter that much. You can end up slamming the wall. The boat, you can't row that section. It's a bit of luck. You can do things like hit things straight.
I think Bruce Helene disagrees with you.
Bruce probably does disagree with me. I'm just saying my opinion. But I don't want to put another boat in eddy on purpose. My opinion is let's get all the boats through, and then let's clean up all of our messes. Let's not
So how are you going to clean up this? And so Zach, how are you going to clean up this mess if the boat doesn't come back down?
Make lunch.
And just keep waiting.
At some point.
Day 2, still waiting.
It's going to come out eventually.
No, what's going to happen is another private group's going to come down and rescue your boat for you.
Hey, if I don't have if this takes 3 hours and we're like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. If we don't have a ducky or we don't have a shredder, that is a problem. And having an upstream boat there, tell me this.
What about this? Is another. I would swim up get a boat line to it, get that line over the middle where this guy is, and you could pull down this way. So you pull it towards the current, so it kind of follows the eddy line down around, and then you can get to the bottom of the eddy that way.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry, I missed that.
You have you have someone go up with the throw bag in the eddy, but you end up throwing
In
the
a
other
boat.
end. No, just swim up there, whatever.
No,
whatever.
you're not, Aaron. I don't think you're gonna even do this, and you're Aaron Cavanolo. Like, it's really cool to just sit in Hawaii right now, but
No, it's a big eddy.
dude, I'm not swimming up that eddy. I guess you would, but like, I don't.
But anyways, if you get a line on the boat, you could pull it from the rock in the middle and get it into the current and kind of work its way down.
Maybe,
There's
but
some good comment.
wait. So the person on the raft is going to throw a throw bag.
No.
The person on the rock is going to throw a throw bag to the raft.
Yeah, you throw the throw bag from the rock to the shore, and that person connects it to the row bag going up that way.
That's a tough throw.
Which throw?
So that from the rock to the boat is a tough throw. It's a tough catch.
No, you're not going from the rock to the boat.
This,
you're going from the island to the shore, and then the shore up the eddy.
And you're swimming. So somebody has the rope in their hand while they're swimming in swirly water with
I'm
rope
not
around
sure.
them.
Can you just throw the rope up there? Would it just go up there on its own? If you just threw the rope up there, I think it would just go up into the eddy.
It'll get caught in the currents going down and just go down. It'll go up in the eddy for a second, but those currents in between the island and the eddy is just going to catch the rope and take it downstream. Mm-hmm. What you're asking to do here is, I want
to go do it now. I really would like to try it. I'm pretty sure I got a couple of ways.
Make sure you wear a GoPro. Make sure you wear a GoPro.
Yeah, I think I got one. I'm pretty confident it's going to work too. It'll be pretty fun.
We can break down that video on another show. But let's move away from this. I know this is very entertaining, but I want to move a little bit towards educational for just a second and throw this idea out there. If I am Zach, I'm leading this trip down the river, and this happens to my second boat, and I've got 4 boats upstream. I want those 4 boats to stop.
And I
think when you see this situation, I think all of us should be trained. Maybe not all of us, but I think that your first instinct should be stop and then decide what to do next.
Yep. Good.
Rather than, I'm just going to float through this and I'll get to the bottom and I'll help Zach.
Yep.
I want there to be a pause before you commit to running the rapid. When you see a boat in front of you having a problem anywhere, if it's not the lead boat, I think your first instinct should be stop, stabilize, just get out of the current, eddy out, look down and evaluate and communicate with everybody else on the trip as to what the next best step is.
I'll tell you what I did when this happened. When this happened,
is that a good universal?
I'm going to say this, particularly if you're the last boat.
Absolutely, if you're the last boat. 100%.
Particularly if you're the last boat. If you're the middle boats, I can see going to it. But you're the last boat.
I get what you're saying. You need having a boat upstream can be a tool. When this happened, I was not the trip leader.
Yeah.
But I just told those 4 boats, like, hey, you guys, just run. Let's get your boats down. And I stopped. I looked at the whole situation. I'm like, what's going to help this solve this problem? I knew we were not going to row a boat over there on purpose. That was not going to happen.
But Zach, the other thing too, you had another boat go left in your group, so you knew that some, other people could have had problems there in your group. Yeah. And so it's one of those things. Is in some ways it makes sense to send people down because, you clean up this whole mess. And you're like, okay, now go back up and run your boats, and then somebody else goes in, and then you're like, now we started all over.
That's what my thinking is. Like, let's make all of our messes happen.
Yeah.
And let's clean all of them up in parallel instead of let's clean a mess. Oh, there's another mess. We got it done. Now let's all walk back up. Next person go. Oh, there's a mess. Let's clean up that mess. Let's all walk back up. I wanted all the messes to happen, and then we were just gonna break up in teams and pick them apart because we don't have all day.
Yeah.
But I can see maybe leaving one.
If there's 2 boats up in that eddy, all right, we can have to go rescue 2 boats at once, or one's right side up, one's upside down. You're
exactly.
We got one right side up, one in the eddy.
I'd rather have 3 boats in the eddy at once.
Yeah.
Than 1 boat in the eddy 3 separate times.
Yeah. And I can see it depends on your crew and it depends on what's going on.
And now if I have Aaron there and Aaron's the last boat, I can just be like, yeah, Aaron, leave your boat. Because I know you can do some superhero move. And I know when we're done with this, you're not going to be the like one more problem at the end.
Yeah.
Like if I have somebody last who's bomber, but if like, hey, the last boat is not going to also do this.
But if you scout this rapid and all your weaker people are going last to watch the best people go, and they're all stressed out about it, you don't want them to have to sit there and worry for an hour about doing. That's a mess too.
So I actually subverted the trip leader here. I just walked up and I said, hey, run it. Hey, guys, stop watching. Just run the rapid. I didn't want this to become like a 5-hour process.
I hope you were a little more diplomatic than that.
I wasn't. I'm not that diplomatic in general.
There's a lot of comments here. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If that boat was right side up and I was in it rowing, can I get back to the right?
No.
Ferry all the way across to River Right?
Ferry all the way across.
No.
You might be able to.
No, I don't think
most of us wouldn't be able to do that.
Steve, I have video that we watched on a show of what happened to ours where he rowed out. And if you saw the struggles he had with those currents, it's really hard just to get out.
The current's really coming hard right to left.
Yeah.
It's really pushing left of the rock. It's really, contrary to what Zach was saying earlier, I think it's really easy to go left of the island.
And then if I'm going left of the island, where am I going to flip?
You're going to flip right where you're looking at. If you're in the front of it, that stuff right in the front, you're going to flip. And then there's this
in this area over here. Like we're looking at that left channel. The water comes in, it hits the rock, and boats right up on the rock and flip, and all kinds of stuff happens.
Or you get stuck in the eddy there too.
Wouldn't I be left of that if I was coming out of that eddy?
No, it shoves you.
Really, it shoves you all the way back out, right into the middle of that wave in front of the rock.
You almost want to be farther right to ferry left, have your momentum going right to left. Yeah.
No boat is going through that channel without hitting the wall.
Oh, I love that challenge.
I'm challenging you. Like you're not getting a boat left without slamming.
Maybe I'm going to go for it and just get fired.
Aaron, you can even tap it, and I'm going to be fine with that. Every boat I've ever seen video of, or I saw personally, slam that wall
on river left.
The river right, the wall on river right.
Well, the river right side of the left channel. So it's that left channel.
There's that little sliver of the top sliver of little sunlight points to that little rock outcropping.
Yep.
Like there's that one there, and then there's the one down below it. But that one in particular, I believe. I think it is. It's hard to see this thing. Hey, we're ignoring our comments.
Yeah, and I got to go in like 5 minutes. So it's all right. River Multitude of Madness. I'm into it. Windows blows upstream. Why don't you get IK?
Didn't you try an IK? No, you did. You tried the shredder.
We should shredder. I would have IK'd. I would have IK'd if I had to. If we'd spent 2 hours waiting, like, all right, I'll IK up there. I swam out of a wrap and Clavey. If I remember right, the boss wasn't super impressed when he saw the photos. Tyler, who was the boss? Are you talking about Aaron or Steve? Those were your two bosses. Which one was it?
I was impressed.
I
still have those pictures, and I was impressed. I don't know that I was happy, but I was impressed.
I swam out to a wrap on Clavey. Where was the wrap, Steve? Pelican?
Dinosaur, wasn't it?
Dinosaur?
Yeah. I don't know how I got out. I don't know how I did. Not Dinosaur, the one above it. What's the one called?
Pelican. The one above it.
Pelican. Yeah. I don't know how. I still don't know how he did that.
It might not have been that. It might have been that fan rock.
What's the fan rock? It was just like, how do you do that? I don't know how he did that. Yeah.
Sean, I agree with Steve too. I stopped and I assessed, and I was like, let's get these boats down.
I think a lot of stuff is situational and requires judgment.
I didn't see any value of boats upstream. So I was like, there's no, like, I understand they have value, but I'm not going to leave one up there. Just leave one up there. Like, if there's no value, let's get them through. That's my take. Steve, you're saying, just in case, leave one. You never know.
At least one.
I'm saying there are situations where you do want one or more, and that should be part of your assessment.
Yep.
Do I want boats upstream or downstream? And you can only make that decision if the boats upstream stop at that moment. Like you can't go backwards from that. Oh, I wish we had boats upstream. Never going to happen. I wish we had more boats downstream. Oh, we can do that.
Yeah. You're doing something irreversible.
When you run the rapid. Yep. Yeah. And before you do that, just double check to make sure that's the best thing. And if If this is the lead boat that's in trouble, that second boat, you go. Well, I don't think you run your reassessment, but chances are 99% of the time you need to get downstream. Second boat, probably higher percentage than lower, but third, fourth, fifth boats, there's no rush to go downstream of the accident. Usually, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And to me, this wasn't also like there's
No, Zach, your decision making process makes sense to me. And I understand what you did. But I
like
think
this
Steve
also
has a good point.
Yeah, no,
Steve
I
has
agree.
a good point.
I agree. There's also like, I'm not going to call this an accident. I'm going to call this equipment recovery. So if this was a person, equipment recovery. I'm going to break this.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to break things up into like rescues and people and equipment recovery. So as equipment recovery, my thinking's a little bit different too.
Sure. Maybe accident wasn't the right word. Event is, I just want to think of it in the general sense, not here, Blossom Bar, Rapt's boat in the middle of Gray's Grindstone, like all those places where you're like, oh, where's the best place for me to be? You have many more options if you're making that decision upstream of the boat than downstream of the boat. You have more, two options rather than just one. Yeah.
To wrap a bow on this, yes, you definitely should think about leaving boats upstream. There's no rush to get them down.
And Zach, you made that assessment in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing this for a long, long time, and it was the right assessment or not the wrong assessment. But a lot of people need 5 people and a minute or 2 minutes to come to that same conclusion. And I just want to give space for that process to occur. I want people to start thinking about that as ahead of time rather than, oh, shoot, I wish we had a boat upstream, because it'd be really easy to row by and have somebody jump out of my boat into that boat and row it out of there. Seen that many times, as that's the best way to recover a boat that's stuck somewhere without anybody in it, is to drop someone off from up above.
So maybe Tyler should have done that.
He may not have had that option.
He may have run his boats through, and he
may have run his boats through. It may have been the last boat.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's better to swim to a raft than to try jump out of a raft onto another raft. I think the dynamics, it just depends on the situation.
It depends. Jumping from raft to raft can be really dangerous. We just did a scenario where we had a person stuck on a rock. I put a person in a rock in a scenario. And I said, if they come by full speed and say, jump in, don't jump in. It has to be very, very safe. Like just, they wasted a resource by going by fast. I flailed up bedrock at 3 of 5 flip spots, 4 high sides came out upright. Wow. That's great. That's great. All right, gentlemen, we probably need to close this show down. This show, I had all these videos planned. I think it was that discussion we had about high water. I'm going to rename this show High Water Discussion. This was fun. So get ready to rename it. Aaron, do you want to shut this one down?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our new Tuesday show. Steve, thanks for being here as usual. Great comments. And Zach, thanks for putting all the materials together. So no show this Friday. We'll be back again next Tuesday.
If there's questions, it'll be a question show. If there's not questions, it's going to be a Steve's Mental Angle show.
Oh,
Friday show on Tuesday next week.
Unless maybe we'll combine them. We'll figure out how to combine them.
So make sure you like, subscribe, whatever, ring the bell, do all those cool things. If you're, rate and review, if you're listening through podcasts. Zach, have you hit 10,000 members yet?
Nope. We have 100 members.
100 members. Whoa.
We have 101, but we only have 9,500 subscribers. So we're getting to 10,000.
9,500. I feel like that's decreased. Yeah, good. See,
it didn't decrease.
Yeah. Man. All right. Well, hey, thanks, gentlemen. It was fun. We'll see you guys later.
Will you two stay on for 1 second after the outro?